Hello everybody, welcome to Stellaris. This is going to be a how-to on ship design. If you're not familiar with Stellaris, the best way I can sum it up is it's a 4X game, meaning it's explore, expand, exploit, and exterminate. So it's a strategy game, much like Civ, Civilization, or Galactic Civilizations, and stuff like that. There's many other types. Ooh, look at that. Um, but the reason why I'm focusing on ship design instead of the other things like resource management, because you're going to need resources in order to build ships, in order to expand your territory, in order to do a lot of things. So resources are very important. But if you don't have ships, a military, someone can come in and take it all from you, destroy you, wipe you out. So the best way, the best thing about the combat here is it's not reliant on quantity. It's more about quality, and I guess that makes sense. If you have a superior technology empire fighting an empire that doesn't have a lot of that's behind on tech, that the empire that's behind on tech is going to lose regardless of how much numbers they have. But anyway, so I can't tell you how many times I've been in battle with with inferior numbers, but had better technology and better better ship designs in that situation too, and I'd come out on top. So it helps, and so let's get into the ship designer, which is something that they have, which is great, you know. And you start off the game with corvettes and defense platforms. All right, defense platforms are things you build around star bases, and they help defend your systems. So we'll get into that maybe another time, but right now we're going to start with corvettes because that's what you start with the game with. And as you research more, you unlock other sizes of ships. So here we are, corvette size ship, and you click. This says no section, which means you need to assign basically a role for this ship. Click on no section. You can make it a missile boat, which means it'll have a small mount and a missile mount. And then you have an interceptor class, which is 3 small mounts. And then you have a picket ship, which obviously it patrols the head of the fleet, or it's at the head of the fleet to shoot down any incoming missiles or fighters. And then it also has 2 slots for small mounts. So what I do early in the game, missiles are decent, unless of course you run into someone who runs with point defense, and then that's not exactly the best thing to have. But what I like to have is a bunch of missile boats if you're going to attack a star base. So to throw in as many missile boats as you can, maybe some picket ships and some interceptors, but go heavy on the missile boats early in like if you want to take on a star base early in the game. That's usually what I'll try to do, because the interceptors and the picket ships have to get in close to handle them, and the missile ships, they have a longer range, and so the further out you are, the harder it is to hit. So that's what I usually go with, a missile boat on them. And when you click on the missile boat, like I said, you see the weapon slots that you have, and you click on the S for the small mount, and you see your options for small ships, or small weapons, my bad. And this is all, I'm in the year 2700, so this is technology you're not going to start with. But what you're going to start with are like the very first levels of this. I forget what it's called, like mass drivers. You start with mass drivers, which is the very first iteration of this Gauss cannon. So what you want to do is decide what, look on a missile boat for sure. You want to do missiles. You want to put a missile on there, and you start off with, was it? I think the nuclear missile is the smaller version of this. So you just throw that on there. Boom. All right. And then you want, like, you start off with a mass driver and a laser. Which do you want to put on this ship? It really doesn't matter. Probably early on in the game you want to go with laser, because lasers do 50% armor damage, negative 50% to shield damage. And early in the game there are deflectors, but mainly the corvettes early in the game are going to run with armor, heavier than shield usually. So throw a laser on there, and there you go. You're set. You're ready to go as far as that goes. But then you have to set your auxiliary systems down here. Like, here's, damn it, your armor and your shields. Now this one is a special armor that comes from research. Researching. There's an event that pops up for crystalline entities and stuff like that, and that's where that came from. But you're going to throw, what I'll usually do is, knowing, well, it really doesn't matter until you run into your first empire in the game. You're not really sure which one of these you want to go heavy on. But there are some AI events that are heavy on lasers, so the best thing to do is go with shields, because the like, mining drones or whatever, and then throw on one thing of armor. Early in the game you're not going to have this many options for auxiliary. I think you start off with a reactor, so you can throw the reactor on or not. It really doesn't matter. All it does is increase the cost to build it, which increases the time to build it. And I think early on you can do without putting anything in the auxiliary spot. So this is our design for a missile boat for early on. Okay, so then you can spam this along with the other corvettes, but I think you want to go heavy on these because, like I said, in case you run across star bases, the missile boats are pretty good for that. Alright, so we're done with that one, and we want to go, oh, well, I guess we can just do it here. Pick an interceptor. Alright, so then you have the same, it throws up 3 small mounts, and so you choose from that. And like, of course this all depends on who you run into during the fight. So as you discover new empires, you can figure out what designs they like on their ships. Like you could run into AIs that love point defense, and then you'll be like, okay, well, I don't really want to run missiles against them. I want to go heavy on something else. Or they don't run with a lot of shields. They do a lot of armor. And if they do a lot of armor, you want to run with lasers. If they run with shields, you want to run with kinetic weapons. And if you just hover over this, it'll tell you what kind of damage it does. As you can see, the type here is kinetic, so that's going to be good against shields. Alright, and you look at the lasers, type energy, so it's going to be good against armor. And then you have like plasma cannons that do 100% to armor damage and hull damage, so, and they're negative 75 to shields. Now if you want to do that, this can be effective, obviously. If you want them to do a lot of damage, what you can do on your corvettes is run a corvette interceptor that's heavy on plasma cannons, or the earlier version of them, whatever. Okay, so they're going to tear through armor and hulls, right? And so to counter that, or to complement that, you're going to need something that's going to take down the shields. So you're going to run with an interceptor that has all kinetic. So the two of them paired up together in a fleet can decimate a fleet, right? I mean, so then I think you want to run equal numbers of those types of ships, or what you can do, you can try to fit it all into one ship. Like with corvettes, though, I think you want to specialize, because they're smaller mounts, and yeah, I think you just want to specialize the Corvettes, because it makes, for me, it makes a lot more sense. So then you can run an interceptor class that is strong kinetic and then strong plasma, or if you don't want to go plasma, you can go with a design that's all kinetic and then all laser. Now it's not going to do as much damage to holds as the plasma or armor. It's not going to, but the average damage is higher, and there's better accuracy and tracking, I believe, right? Tracking, yeah, tracking's better, and the range is similar. So that's what you and what else? Disruptors. Disruptors penetrate shields and armor. So this is what I've done against certain enemies that come in late in the game. Is I'll go heavy on Corvettes with disruptors, and like make a whole fleet of Corvettes that have disruptors, and they can decimate big ships. And you say, well, that's crazy. How can a little Corvette take on? Where's my Titan at? This is the biggest ship in the game. Where are you? Okay. Look at this Titan. Okay. How can a Corvette destroy this? It's 12,000 hull points, 1,700 armor, almost 6,000 shields. How can a Corvette handle this? And as you can see here, the accuracy on the large mounts for those down to 75. Tracking is 5%. And the accuracy for the lasers is a little higher, 90, but the tracking is 5%. So, and they take longer to refire. And the cooldown is 4.6. So, and if you look at a Corvette's evasion, the base evasion here is 90%. So a fleet of Corvettes can destroy Titans. I mean, and that's just, they're basically superpowered strike craft or fighters, as you may see in other games or whatever. But in this game, fighters are called strike craft. So yeah, so that's what the strength of the Corvettes are. Is their size, their evasion, and if you throw disruptors on them, which, as I said, they penetrate shields and armor, but as you can see, the average damage is much lower, like half the damage, but the penetration is pretty impressive. So, but what I usually do is I'll also run a Corvette interceptors that have these autocannons. Now, the cooldown on these is 2.3, so that's very fast. The accuracy is 85, the tracking 75, and they do 75% less damage to armor, but they do 50% shield and 25% hull. So they're not going to do a lot of damage to armor, but once the armor goes down, you're good. So that's why it's good to, I think, have a fleet of Corvettes that are mixed. You're gonna want kinetic Corvettes, maybe lasers, maybe plasma, maybe disruptors, but I think you definitely want the autocannons when you get the technology for it, because it's better than the well, I mean, for a Corvette, they're better than the regular kinetic weapons. So, because Corvettes only have small mounts; they don't have large mounts or medium or anything like that. So, so that's going to be the interceptor class of that. And then now the picket. Here we go. This says 2 small mounts and point defense. Now, the point defense is good against missiles. So if you're up against an enemy that has a lot of missiles, you want to put on the point defense. If they have a lot of strike craft, you're going to want flak. you won't run into too many people that have strike craft. So just go with point defense, and these aren't bad to have in your base fleet. Even if you don't run into people that have missiles, it's good to have them around in your fleet just in case you happen to run into them. So you can choose these over interceptors if you want, and basically build it the same way as you would an interceptor. Put the point defense on here, and then just throw on some auto cannons, and you have a good ship. It's going to do its fair share of damage, and it's going to defend your fleet from missiles. So, and then of course you can mix and match this too. Like this is going to take down shields, and if you want to throw on some plasma cannons or blow on a plasma cannon, then you can do that. Or you can say, well, let's just put a laser on here. Yeah, but once you get the technology for auto cannons, I think that's going to be your go-to for most of your Corvette designs. But as I said, though, you do want to you want to have specialized ships, Corvette-wise at least. So so that'll be that for the Corvettes. And obviously, you know, the next size up is Destroyer, and I can go over all of these and what different setups they have, what each one has. But I mean, I think the best thing you're going to do is look at the Corvettes, because that's what you're going to start with, and build from there. And once you build up a good design, you can figure out these other classes as well. It gets a lot easier to design as you go further up. Once you nail the design of a Corvette, I think you can pretty much figure out the rest of the ships. So I'm not really going to go into those right now, but and these over here are just, you know, the basic what every ship needs. Yeah, you need a reactor, you need a source of power, as you can see. You need a jump drive, which makes it to where you can go from one star system to another. You need impulse thrusters. These are the engines that are going to be within a star system. This is what moves you around in a star system. And tachyon sensors, obviously the eyesight for the ship. And this is something you get later on, the combat rolls. So, and you can check that out when you get there. This green is the first ones that you unlock. And for Corvettes, you get swarm tactics, and picket tactics is your first introduction to combat roles with Corvettes. And you can just read the tooltips on those and figure out which is best for what you want to do. Now most Corvettes you're going to put on a swarm tactic, unless you make them into picket ships, and then you're going to just choose the picket tactic. But generally most Corvettes will be swarm. So that's going to be that on that. And I guess that'll be it for this video. I may do another like how-to for Stellaris, but I'm not sure what area I will cover on that one. I figured we'd do the ships because it's a vital part to the game. It can determine a lot of your success. So hopefully this helps. If you have ideas on a different how-to for Stellaris, leave comments below. If you enjoyed the video, if it's helpful, throw me a like, subscribe if you've not already, and I'll see you next time.